Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I am enthralled to be joined in person by Keith Jackson and Craig Swan. Guys, how's it going?
Very well.
Thank you, Daniel.
I like what you've done to the place.
That looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, nice.
Spruced it up a little bit. No, you guys were coming in. That's
The Bisgrove suite has had another improvement made. Still
absolutely.
ongoing.
Still ongoing, that's definitely worth saying now. We're here, guys, obviously, in the wake of Rangers' Premier Sports Cup semi-final win over Motherwell. 2-1 victory for Rangers. They came from behind, but they got the job done. Wasn't pretty, Swanee, but they're in the final.
It was the name of the game for Rangers today, wasn't it? Just to whatever way they managed to do it, just to get over the line. And obviously the circumstances of the game, falling behind in the first half, you could just feel the clouds starting to gather around Philip Clement. It was a massive 45 minutes for him. And the team managed to pull through and get the result that they needed.
Before we go into Philip Clement, Rangers and all that fallout, I wanted to get your guys' take on Andy Halliday and his opening goal when he refused to celebrate after scoring against Rangers.
I'm not a fan of that. You're a Motherwell employee. And
Well, I mean, Kev Smith's written in on Facebook saying, why do players do that? They're meant to be professional. Motherwell pays his wages and his allegiance should be to them, regardless if he played for the opposition team in the past. And David Carey saying as well, if I was a Well fan, I'd be livid. I thought it was a bit cringeworthy.
I think the Motherwell fans were quite happy because their team had just gone 1-0 up against Rangers at Hampden. Andy Halliday had just about broken his back trying to get up there to make the finish.
It was a good goal.
Yeah,
Really good goal.
I listen, I can take it or leave it. I certainly wouldn't get overly fussed about it. But I tell you something, Swanee, saying there what this was all about today for Rangers was just getting the job done. And to an extent, I guess that's correct. But this is fooling nobody.
No.
If anybody's sitting watching this thinking, well, that's all right, Clement's got himself out of jail there. Well, he hasn't, because it was another terrible, terrible performance, which, okay, improved a little bit after half-time, but they were 1-0 down. They were actually bumping into each other. It was so disorganised and chaotic during that first half. There was a lack of discipline about their performance. There was a lack of energy. There was a lack of hunger, a lack of desire, a lack of a plan. Rangers are just wobbling about here from one calamity to the next. This has solved nothing. And do you know all it's done? It means that Clement has to face Celtic at Hampden in December. And that will probably be the game that finishes.
yeah, I should qualify by saying it was, in terms of Clement, what had to be done. Because if that result had gone wrong today on Philip Clement,
So he's got to stay.
I can imagine we'd be in a very different conversation, right, as we speak.
Although I'm not sure about that one either, Swanee, because as much as I say that, I've said previously, who's going to sack him? Who's going to make the decision?
Yeah.
So
I agree with you.
So Rangers will just bumble along
Yeah.
and they'll stumble through the next bad performance or dodgy result, and it could come this midweek.
One of the first comments we've had, Ross Mann watching live on Facebook, he says, paping over the cracks, I'd still give him his P45. And this one that's come in on Facebook as well, Mark Bell. The 15th of December with the Rangers manager's last game after Celtic embarrassing them. So are we basically saying that regardless of winning today, he's really just delaying the inevitable? Is that what you think?
Yeah.
And by the way, see when you're getting into a situation and when you look at the decisions that are being made and the substitutions that are being made and the chaotic sort of nature of it all, takes off his captain. He's 1-1 against Motherwell in a semi-final of a National Cup competition at Hampden, and he takes off his captain.
We were saying in Aberdeen the other night when he took off Bayrami. It's bizarre.
His decisions are incredibly bizarre. Now, I'm not saying, because I personally said that some time ago, Dujon Sterling should be given a run of games at right back. Tavernier should be taken out of the team. But don't start with the guy, because it's the same mistakes over and over again. Tavernier looks shot, by the way. Mm-hmm. His body language is all over the place. And during the second half, a bit with the cameras panned to the bench, and it actually looked like Tavernier was sitting next to Cyril Dessers. Look, we don't know what the conversation was, but it looked as if the two of them were almost looking at the manager saying, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And then further down the line, Balogun gets injured, so he has to go to his bench again, and he puts on Casemiro when the guy that he bought to play left-sided centre-half, Robin Proper, is sitting there. And then the camera pans back and Robin Proper's now sitting, joining the Dessers and Tavernier. And the three of them look as if they're having a bitch fest.
Aye.
So,
It did look like that.
but see when it gets to this point where it is chaotic and there is no structure and he's making substitutions, and it's like throwing mud at the wall and hoping that something sticks. That's where Rangers are at right now. And it's a really bad state of affairs. And I don't think there'll be a Rangers fan out there that's genuinely looking forward to this cup final, because I think they're looking at going, look what Celtic just did to Aberdeen, that could be us.
The one thing Daniel and I discussed off air before we came on was, we'll probably touch on Celtic later, and we'll get to Celtic in their semi-final, I guess, but there's a freshness and a vibrancy about Celtic. They've managed to build up a squad that allows them to switch and mix and match and keep it nice and fresh. If you look 6 weeks down the line from now, with the amount of football that's still to be played, Rangers have kind of got the same core. There are not a lot of changes or quality changes that Philip Clement's going to be able to make with the European stuff as well, and the extra league games in there, and the amount of fixtures.
And he's downgraded the squad.
Rangers will be out on their feet, I would imagine, by then. The Celtic, you would imagine, will be fresh, vibrant, flying. I think it promises to be even worse for Rangers than what it would have been if the game was tomorrow.
Yeah, very possibly. Very possibly. What I don't see is Rangers suddenly sorting themselves in that period and making themselves genuinely capable and robust enough to deal with the threat that Celtic offer from all over the pitch.
Do you know one player that I thought, and I actually hate kind of doing this, singling someone out, because most Rangers players have been pretty rotten for a while now. But and I know
carry on.
And I know he scored today, but Dessers played in the first half.
That
chance he missed was, I don't even have the words to sum it up. And okay, he scored, they won, but against better teams, you're not going to get that chance.
Yeah, and there's another guy, when I'm talking about body language, there were moments in that first half when the ball was bouncing off him, or he wasn't executing a pass, passing straight to a Motherwell player rather than one of his teammates. And then there was an incident where I think Lennon Miller took the ball off his toes, and Dessers kind of fell over, as Dessers is prone to doing. And then he kind of got up slowly and sort of shrugged his shoulders, and you're looking going, your body language is utterly atrocious.
Yeah, really bad, eh?
On a platform like that, in a semi-final of a national cup. This has gone beyond now the sort of band-aid stage for Rangers. They need real serious surgery, and I just don't think, what players they have got there, I don't think they believe in what they've been told to do or the decisions that the manager's making. So I mean, where else do you go?
I think on Cyril Dessers as well, it was a perfect example today of what Scott McDermott speaks to quite a lot, that Cyril Dessers will get a good number of goals in a season because of the amount of chances that are created, but you can't, just to say, I got my 20 goal quota this year, isn't what Rangers need if it's taking you 80 chances to get them.
He still hasn't.
That's the thing, that is the difference. And when Celtic play Rangers in the cup final in 6 weeks' time, Cyril Dessers might get one look at goal.
Aye.
If Kyogo gets one look at goal,
he takes it.
He'll score it.
He'll score it.
He still hasn't scored in the league since 24th of August.
So listen, there was an argument being made, and I like him. I want him to do well.
Aye.
Because he looks like a nice
great,
guy, and I think it's quite unusual, despite all the stick he's had. I'm saying that his body language was bad, and that I wasn't impressed with what he was putting into the game. Usually you would look and say, well, you're going to get on working. Mm-hmm. The guy's going to run.
Is that just a confidence thing though, Keith? Is
I don't know what it is.
Down
I honestly don't know what it is.
You can look like that, can't you? You can look lethargic when confidence is about that.
Possibly, but when I'm looking at this Rangers side now, I'm looking at these players, I don't think you're actually enjoying doing what you're doing.
Well, I would certainly agree with that.
They're not having fun.
Certainly agree with that. It does. Everything looks like a chore at the moment. Stress.
And what's the old phrase? When the fun stops, stop. I mean, that's what it is. You're looking and going, you're actually dreading being out there. You're dreading going out of your work. And potentially, and I put it out there, maybe there's someone out there thinking, do we really want to? How badly do we want to win this and set ourselves up for another meeting with Celtic? Because they've come through, they've got so much scar tissue from that fixture. Do they really? Were there players in blue shirts in the first half in particular today that thought, I can take this or leave it because I know what's coming? Because it looked to me as if there were players out there that were going through the motions.
I'm not sure I agree with that, I have to say.
No?
I think when you get to cup final territory, you'll always go into it in the hope that, listen, I think we all know now, and probably I would agree with you, Keith, that Rangers players probably in their heart of hearts, even though they'll never admit it publicly, would need Celtic to have an off day to beat them. But that can happen.
I think
You know,
Celtic.
you're one game to a
Of course,
medal.
one game,
and
aye.
you can have a you know, I think
Anything like that,
there's been a variety of cup finals down the years where it's happened. Was it the '89 cup final when Joe Miller scored for Celtic?
I don't
Rangers were- all I'm saying is I'm thinking like they're one game from a medal now, one game from winning.
A lucky a boxer's punch shot.
It can happen.
Yeah, I get
It
it.
has happened.
But what I'm saying is, I genuinely believe that there are so many players in that dressing room now who have been so damaged by the derby that they're terrified of it.
Yeah.
I genuinely think they're terrified
Well,
of it.
just to go back to your point, now would be the time to start giving Dujon Sterling that regular game at right back.
Exactly
because-
right.
But just sorry.
Because you can't put Tavernier back into that fixture. You just can't do it.
I don't think so.
Oh, Steve-O watching live on YouTube says you can say what he's like, but Tav is by far our most creative player. Stats fact. I'm not sure that's the case this season.
Not this season.
No, last season certainly, but sorry, I was going to say, just to go back to Clement quickly before we move on from Rangers, I have a bit of sympathy for him in the sense that it does feel like we're just waiting for that defeat that's going to force him out, and if that is the case, what are they waiting for? Let's just move on to the next guy if that's what they're going to
Because
do.
they don't have anybody in charge of the club that can actually make that decision. I would argue is probably one of the first reasons.
Aye.
But look, we've all looked at Eric Ten Hag and we couldn't believe that he was still clinging on to that job against all the odds and you know, against the wishes of the supporters, against the wishes of the players at Man United. And this guy's just gone through the same movie at Rangers. It's the exact same thing that you're watching. But Rangers don't have a management structure there above him, who an executive in place that can make that decision, make that call. It would be left to a guy who's just filling in the chairman's capacity, his caretaker role, to make that decision. And that's the mess that they've got themselves in.
Yeah,
They are completely rudderless from top to bottom.
And also there'll be a wish and a hope to stave it off for as long as possible due to the obvious financial implications, because of course we heard last week when the report came out and the Michael Beale thing was part of that, what it costs to get rid of him and get a new management team. That will of course be another factor, I would
Do
imagine.
you not think surely in his contract there'll be a fee saying, look, if we need to sack you, and you're X amount?
Yeah, it'll be
Aye, it'll just be too
the full
much,
law,
aye.
please. You see the contract that I just signed.
Do you think it'll be the full
extension?
contract, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's the way it works. Employment law.
And name me a football manager or agent who doesn't. You don't just walk away from what you're doing. That does not happen.
Do you know what? Gordon Strachan did it when he was at Middlesbrough.
Aye, did he tore up his
He
contract?
ripped up his own contract and left for free because he felt that he wasn't doing the job properly.
Aye.
That is about the only scenario that I can recall of it ever happening. And I certainly don't think that Philip Clement is about to do that at Rangers.
And nor should he.
I'm not sure.
No, no, sure. Aye, I wasn't suggesting that. I just thought maybe it would be, you get the extension, but if you're not in this position with
No,
these
that's not
points,
how it works.
you don't. Okay. Fair enough. Mick Brawley, watching YouTube. Keep dreaming, boys. Celtic could beat this mob on a bad day. But Pete Lawrence.
I don't disagree with that either.
That's, Pete Lawrence, this is the usual noise. There's always a chance in football. They're in the final and have a chance, as slim as that may be. Most didn't think they had it in them to get through today.
I was just making the
To be
point that
muddled.
in a one-off day that something can happen. But I am the one who always argues that the biggest wrong cliche in football is when it comes to derby games, the form book is out the window. It's garbage. The form book doesn't go out the window.
Form book's very
It tends to
relevant.
be that it's very relevant. And I've always said that, and it's been the case in point with Celtic and Rangers for a very long time now. All I was making the point was you can have a shotgun day and something can happen for you.
Anything can happen. It's sport, aye.
See, the thing is, right, where you take this particular fixture into consideration, is that Rangers have got a little bit closer in recent years. They've kind of got into bits where you think, it could be a right good match between the pair of them because there's not that much of a difference. But what's happened over the 12 months that Philip Clement has been in charge is Rangers have downgraded to such an extent that they're not even in the same ballpark.
No.
And that's why there'll be Rangers supporters dreading the idea of going to Hampden December 15th because they've seen this movie I don't know how many times and they know how it ends, and it doesn't end happily for them.
So Rangers next have Olympiacos in the Europa League away from home on Thursday. Then next weekend, week today, Rangers against Hearts at Ibrox. A rejuvenised Hearts to some extent. I'll put this to you guys before we move on from Rangers. Do you think Philip Clement will definitely still be Rangers manager when the cup final comes round on December 15th?
I wouldn't say definitely.
I'd say probably.
Probably.
Because for the very reasons we're discussing, there's nobody there to make that call, nobody there to make the decision. And could a caretaker chairman really look and say, okay, we'll pap him off, we'll pay him off, and then we'll find a new guy. We might have to spend a bit of money to recruit him. Then we have to give him a contract. And that contract, presumably, only to be a 4-year deal, something in that ballpark. You're now accounting for millions and millions of pounds. And what if, when you do find a new chairman and a new chief exec and a new director of football operations, they look and say, well, what did you bring this guy for? Because the first thing we're going to have to do is get shot.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, for that list of reasons, there's every chance. I think it's probable that the Rangers board will also be looking at this. Because I remember something similar this time last year. Kind of, if they could just get to Hampden, if they could just lift this cup, everything might start to improve. And so I would fully envisage that they'll be sitting there with their fingers crossed right now, maybe with pencils up their nose and their underpants in their head, thinking, Big Phil could still pull this out the fire. I don't think that most Rangers fans would agree that it's even still a remote possibility.
The other thing is, Keith, the cost of the management's one thing, but a new manager, if a new manager was to walk in the door, he then says, for example,
Squad's rotten.
I don't like Robin Proper.
Aye.
I don't like Jeffrey.
I need more
I don't
players,
like
aye.
him. I don't like him.
Aye.
By the way,
Rangers are moving into a Hibs situation now. We talked about Hibs as regards having 4 managers worth of players.
it's a big point.
Rangers are there now.
Aye, that's true. Aye.
Rangers. If you James Taverner, you go back what 5 managers
Mark
for
Warburton,
James Taverner.
yeah.
I mean, you now have you've Van Bronckhorst players, you've got Beale players, you've got Clement players. That is the situation that Hibs have got themselves into.
Yeah.
With so many of these, and they can't move them on.
Warburton, Senior, has he got any players left from the Pedro?
Probably not.
Maybe not. Gerrard. So it will be about 5.
Yeah.
And by the way, we mentioned Manchester United. That's exactly the same. It's the same problems that which are crippling them. And I always say that Sunderland were the poster boy club for this.
Yeah, they were a better example than Hibs. Yeah.
But you now look at your likes of your Man United and Rangers, and these are the same problems. It's no real surprise that it becomes more and more difficult to manage a group successfully. And I tell you what, it becomes even more difficult than that when you go out in the summer and you sign yourself an experienced central defender and you have to pay a few quid for him, and you think this guy will be the guy that I need to turn to, and he's going to be, he'll sort out our defensive frailties. And then in a semi-final against Motherwell, your guy, what he's Balogun now,
36, I think,
36.
just about.
He pulls up. The manager has to turn to his bench again, and he doesn't put on Robin Proper. So it's not even a case of a manager comes in and I don't fancy the last guy's players. It's the manager's there and he doesn't fancy the players that he's bought.
Good point.
That's a good point. We've talked obviously a lot about Rangers, but Swanee, you were at Hampden yesterday for Celtic against Aberdeen. It was a game that, I was really looking forward to. It had the makings of an absolute cracker, but in the end it was really one-sided. There was only one team in it, really.
Celtic were brilliant on Saturday night, just brilliant. Just what Celtic can be. When Celtic are on it, when they're on song, they can't be touched. And it was interesting. I said that we did a video for Record Sport before the game, and I just got a feeling about Celtic, just listening to them speak and speaking to people and doing the interviews on the Friday, that I felt they thought they'd let Aberdeen off the hook in that game at Celtic Park 2 weeks previously.
Rodgers definitely felt that way, didn't
2-0 in
he?
front.
More or less said that.
They had chances to win the game, chances to go further in front. They almost had it too easy.
Mm-hmm.
They could have scored 2 or 3, 4 in the first half, and then a 10-minute period cost them. And I just felt that there was something about them yesterday. I just turned to somebody I was at the game with when in the press box when I got to 2-0 and said, "I'm not going to stop at this point."
Yeah.
Because not only do they not want it to happen again, I think there was a real wish to show their strength and their dominance, and they were just brilliant. What we talked about the freshness, the vibrancy, the way you can mix the squad up. You can give Maida and Kuhn the midweek off, and then they took him in and they're just unplayable.
Do you know what I think is the frightening bit for Aberdeen, for Rangers, for everybody else? I don't think Celtic were brilliant in the first half. I thought they scored some brilliant goals, and I thought the front play was fantastic and they were clinical. What I'm trying to say is they were 3-0 up with the cup semi-final won without really having to go
Yeah,
through the
but
game.
Keith, this is a
in the second half, Swanee.
This is a Brendan
No,
Rodgers.
no.
This is a Brendan Rodgers thing, though, that we've spoken about after the Rangers game. You watch how Celtic moved the ball in the first 20 minutes. They're not necessarily making progress towards the game, but this is an Aberdeen team who have put their heart and soul into beating Rangers on the Wednesday night. And
Yeah.
we can maybe come to that later on, because I think Jimmy Tilleen's had a lot of praise this season, but I think something he got wrong yesterday. But there was obviously the case at Aberdeen. They might be, not saying fatigue at the start of the game, but the idea was get them, and Celtic just moved it and moved it and moved it, and they kept it moving side to side, side to side. And that first 20-25 minutes, that's something that Celtic can do to teams. You're actually running teams into the ground,
Aye.
and then bang, once you get the foot, then you're off. And they're really, really good at it. Brendan Rodgers' team in his first spell at their height were great at that. At times they could be accused of overpassing for passing's sake at times, but when they got it right, they're brilliant at doing it. And you looked at Aberdeen, you think in the first 20 minutes, you're thinking they're barely getting a touch here. They're literally just doing shuttle
just
runs,
hacking, yeah.
covering people. And you're thinking, oh, that's going to take a toll.
And Nicky Devlin been brilliant this season, outstanding. But when Dyson May does in that form, and
What do you do about it?
Well, I know I'm not saying he's a world class footballer, but see the way he harries, the way he presses.
Oh, yeah.
There can't be many better than him at that. He absolutely suffocates.
machine.
Yeah,
Aye,
and he makes your mind up for you as well. He puts doubts in your mind. I mean, there was a situation maybe in the first 10-15 minutes, and it struck me. I watched El Clasico a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if any of you boys saw it. A couple of Barcelona.
How good were Barcelona?
A couple of Barcelona players tried to lob the goalkeeper when they'd no chance of lobbing him. The football psychology is, they know they're not going to score, but what they're saying to the goalkeeper is, don't play keeper sweeper. Don't come 35 yards out your goal, because we'll try and lob you. And then they got their first goal because there was a massive space to play in, because the goalkeeper was pinned on his line. The Dyson main thing yesterday was one when he was offside early doors, and I think he almost knew he was going to be offside, but he thought, you know what, I'm just going to run in behind you anyway. Because you're no Nicky Devlin, you are not going that way. I'll make sure you don't go that way.
Aye.
You'll be on your heels and coming back the way. And he just does that to people. He actually just stresses them into thinking, I need to stay where I am, and then he just beats you down with running power. It's frightening stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what come back to.
Guy scores in the World Cup, by the way. He's not just some flash in the pan.
What we're talking about earlier is he terrifies the
Terrifies
life out of James Tavernier.
Yeah.
Which is exactly Swanee's absolutely brilliant point, by the way, is that now is the moment. He needs to get Dujon still, and if that's his first choice right back, because we don't know what his first, second choice right back is, because he's messed about and Casemiro's come into it. So he has to make a decision, and he has to put one of them, be it Sterling, which I would be inclined to go with, but I think Sterling's been marginalised by this manager over recent weeks of the season. But if it's Sterling, then put him in. What you cannot do is continue like this up until you come up against Celtic and you make the same mistakes all over again, and you put Tavernier into a situation that you know that he can't cope with.
Yeah.
So let's see, if I was Rangers, let's see if there's somebody that might be better equipped to deal with that threat. Maida, listen, do you know what? I've said it previously this season. I think he's improving under Brendan Rodgers. I think Brendan Rodgers is working on his decision making and his finishing. I think that there's more quality about his work now in the final third, which maybe wasn't there before. He was just a jet lightning guy that would run all day for you. But then you've got, oh my God, his cross has just disappeared into I don't know where. There seems to be more of a cultured finish to what he's doing now. And I think Brendan Rodgers probably deserves great credit for that, as does Dyson Maida. But this is the funny thing, we were talking about it first, you know, if this guy could cross a ball, if he could if he was a calm finisher, if he was clinical, Celtic couldn't afford this guy. That was what we all said.
Yeah.
But now he is actually adding these velvety touches to the kind of more difficult parts of the game. That makes him a hell of a player and a hell of an asset for Celtic.
And Brendan Rodgers is that there was a lot made at the start of last season. Brendan Rodgers said, you know, I'm not changing Kyle Ogle as a player, but there's no doubt Kyle Ogle comes into the game a little bit more. He's not just playing in the last line. And you look at the benefit in goal scoring and the way that Nicholas Kuhn and Dyson make the way Oddsson Edwards used to do for Brendan and Mr. Dembele. They would come out the hole and Scott Sinclair would go in And the
Aye.
guy, and
Create a
Kieran
big
Maida
gap,
just
aye.
keep doing it now.
Aye.
And it's really, really good. It's working really, really well.
Let me hit you both for some comments on yesterday's game then. James Boyd Russell, have to applaud Aberdeen on their league challenge to date, but when Celtic get top gear, they're on a different level. A joy to watch. Colin Murray, Rodgers' ability to make several changes and freshen up his side is the difference for Celtic. Aberdeen just couldn't compete with that.
Just on that, Daniel, can I
Yeah,
break
yeah.
in before you go
Of course,
further?
aye.
Just wanted to say, look, Aberdeen don't have European football, and they haven't played as much football. So, Jimmy Tillini has not put a foot wrong this season, basically, in most people's eyes. But we thought before the game yesterday, and we said it openly, and we said it on the video, there was a lot, not only physical but emotional effort went into that game against Rangers on the Wednesday night.
Aye.
I'm not sure going with the same 11 the game was the way to go. Even just a couple, just some couple,
Freshen.
just to freshen it slightly.
How many changes Celtic
He
made?
doesn't.
5?
Celtic
5?
made 6.
6?
Now, Jimmy Tillin doesn't have the squad to do that. We all know that, right?
Right.
And we all know there's certain key people out. But I just thought maybe one of the boys in the middle of the park, Shinnie and Nielsen, could have stepped out just to put some more legs in there.
He's not going to
there,
keep Kenny out of the
something.
team, was he? But
Just something, just even
aye.
start Shane Morris, something, just something just to, because they just looked,
Aye.
I'm taking absolutely nothing away from Celtic. Aberdeen just looked leggy
the
straight away.
the
Celtic kept
the
moving
tank
them
was
about.
empty.
And what
And
the,
they looked-
the first really taxing midweek game they've had all season, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
when did this become a thing? Guys can't play 3 games in a week because
No,
I'm
no,
hearing this a lot
that's
from
fair.
Philip
Aye.
Clement.
Yeah.
Aye, that's fair.
and I'm not,
In fact,
I'm not
hearing
saying
it
that.
every time Philip Clement opens his mouth.
Aye.
Oh, 3 games in a week. I mean, this is incredible in the sport and science guys. But it's 3 games in a week.
Yeah.
Everybody grew up playing 3 games in
Yeah.
a week. That's, even the guys, obviously the ones that didn't make it, these are professional football players, they're athletes. The whole purpose is to perform whenever and wherever and how many times is required of them. Does Andy Murray ever walk to the side of the tennis court and say,
I'm not playing the third one anymore.
no. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
What about this one, Keith, right? To take it back onto Maida. Mark Fairfield, right? I don't know if the name rings a bell.
No.
At the start of the season, and I remember this. He said, remember I told you I wouldn't swap
This isn't
Dyson?
going to end
No,
well
this
for you.
doesn't sound good.
I remember I wouldn't swap Dyson for any other player in his position in world football.
Yes.
Yesterday showed why. He's on. He's got he kept his receipt. He's cashing it in.
Is it? Well, is he? Any other playing world football?
I think
Any other
finishes, so
player would-
Lamine Yamal maybe. But no offence to Dyson Maida, but
I tried.
Salah.
Listen, Mark, I tried, Mark. These things happen.
he has been brilliant.
It's been
I'm not taking away from him. I'm not saying he's the best player in the world.
No.
What about this one? Robert Baker. Aberdeen doesn't have the squad. The fans think they win the league. It's just the same old Aberdeen, isn't it? Is it the same old Aberdeen?
No,
Do you
I
think
didn't
they'll
know.
bounce back?
No, and I made a point of writing this on Saturday night. I think that there was a moment in the second half when the Celtic fans were having a bit of fun and basically started singing "Are You Rangers" in disguise towards Aberdeen. But the key is they're not. Right now they're better than Rangers, and they need to forget, if you can, because as sore as it is, we keep making the point, if Celtic play like that, they can do that to anybody in this country. And Aberdeen just have to park it and take care of the rest. Get right back on the horse against Dundee on Saturday.
You're 100% right. Do you know what else and where it might be a blessing in disguise for Aberdeen? Forget all this. See all this. They're going to challenge.
No, they were never going to
No, that was never going to happen.
No, the mission's to get ahead of Rangers.
So you can disabuse yourself for that
Yeah.
notion. Now, stop being distracted by it. Because right now, see in terms of if you extrapolate 10 games that we've had, Celtic have got 2.8 points per game. Aberdeen have got 2 points. That's ridiculous. 2.8 points per game. And if you extrapolate it out over the course of a season, you end up getting, I think, 106 points. So you're in that region. Now, there is just no way that Aberdeen are going to get over 100
of
points.
course.
It's just not going to happen. But it could very well happen with Celtic. In fact, I predicted since
did say
the
that.
start of the season, I think that Celtic will smash through the 100 points. So this idea that, it's great that Aberdeen are up there. It's great that they're competitive. I think they can remain in second place, but that's the focus now. It's just let's stay in the wing mirrors because we're never going to get in front of that. But see if we can stay in front of where we are.
Yeah.
That constitutes an absolutely sensational first season in the job.
And I genuinely don't believe there was a single Aberdeen fan who
No,
thinks,
they realistically thought they'd
never thought and I did think at any point.
You look at
Listen,
the
I have-
City season, Swan,
Oh, no,
and you
that-
look at Leverkusen, and you think that could be us.
Yeah, that's The Leicester City season's fine because all the big guns in the league that year.
It was the perfect
flopped.
storm.
Yeah.
Celtic are not flopping.
No.
That was the difference.
If Aberdeen did go on and win the league, would it top Leicester, Jack?
Good question.
I'd probably think
Hypothetical. so
probably
don't
not.
know.
It's not going to happen.
I'm dodging that by saying it's hypothetical. I don't know.
But that is it. Swanee's absolutely spot on there.
Aye.
Aberdeen, success for Aberdeen now that we're at this point in the season, success for Aberdeen looks like keeping Rangers out the top two spots.
And that would be incredible, as you say.
Astonishing.
Yeah.
Aye.
That is doable.
Aye, definitely. Before we wrap up, guys, I should check in back in the Premiership because there was 4 games this weekend. Yesterday, Hearts could win away to St Johnstone 2-1. St Mirren nil, Ross County nil. But today, guys, Swan, we were talking about before we come on here. Hibs won, Dundee United won. Another 94th minute goal. Hibs have conceded.
Gut punch for
David Gray must be going mental
was
privately.
it 98 minutes at Tannadice?
Aye. And now, again, 94 today, a Sam Dalby penalty.
And by the way, apparently Dundee United were hardly in that game.
Yeah.
A total ram raid of a job they've done in the last one.
But that's concentration stuff. That's
Aye.
Well,
it can happen once or twice.
Yeah.
Aye.
It can't keep happening.
Exactly.
Some people are not switched on. People are getting nervous. Whatever. But it's no good enough. It's just not good enough.
And at Dens Park, finished Dundee 3, Kilmarnock 2. Another 94th minute goal. Dundee coming from 2 down to beat Derek McInnes-Skilling.
That's just a flip of what
Yeah.
happened the last time these
Aye.
two. And every time that these two get it on now, you're looking, it's probably going to be 4 or 5 goals in. There's
Yeah.
probably going to be 2 each. And somebody just might nick it. And that's every time. Every time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because the managers know each other so well that they can figure each other out. Maybe it's like playing chess. But and it's swinging now as well, where we'll go 2-0 up and then we'll come back from there. And it's actually astonishing. Great for the fans. One of the best fixtures going
I was
about.
going to say that seems to be one of the games to watch. But a strange week for Derek McInnes. You know, you're in front at Dingwall, and then you look, then you're behind at Tynecastle, and you fight back, and then that today is just.
That's what I was. They keep getting hauled back a wee bit, Kelly, when you think they're getting ahead.
Yeah.
Have a wee setback, but
I think that was very similar at this point last season as well. And eventually they settle into their stride. I think they'll do fine. Come on, they'll do fine.
Oh, come on, it'll do fine. There's no doubt about that.
As long as Rangers don't steal their manager.
I just mean Derek McInnes probably sitting there this week thinking, I've got 3 points for those 3.
Aye, I know.
I could easily have had 9. Frustrating.
guys, I think that brings us to the end of Sunday's Hotline Live.
Okay then.
With Record Sport. Thank you very much at home for all of your comments. We really appreciate it. We'll be back to do it all again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. So tune in then. Swan and Keith, thanks very much.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us at home. Cheers.